Would you like to try that today?
No. No.
You want to tell us about this little room right here? You might want to just stand here and I'll hold
Now
the
that
door.
was a rag nest.
A rag nest. Which means
That all the old coats and things that now people get rid of, Mother.
I see the hangers over here against this wall, the shelving units.
Well, I don't know whether those were there. I don't know.
May not have been.
I don't know, but I know that this was loaded with coats
And you've got some original wallpaper, ceiling and on the wall right here. Original wallpaper.
Is this where you'd store?
looks like they've been doing, I can't tell you, but I don't know whether it was like this or not.
It's like somebody ran out standing there. Well, does it look like you remember it, Mom, after you've been through it?
Yes, I remember a lot of it. Of course, I lived in that room for 2 or 3 years. Don't go backwards.
No, I'm going to try.
What was this room again?
It was supposed to have been a bathroom, Alan, but it never was finished. After Mother, you know, had her surgery and so forth, things just...
Kind of went on hold.
yes, yes.
Do you remember?
Look at the lights maybe over your head.
Oh, isn't that pretty? Oh, that is pretty.
That's an old one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd say those are the original ones. They all kind of
Yes. Ooh, does make a difference,
Yes,
doesn't it?
indeed.
Oh, my. Now this, the floorboard was taken up, and this is the only board I remember putting electricity all over this house. Of course, there had to be something else, but that's the only one I remember.
Huh.
Just that, I know they didn't tear up a whole lot.
Well, they could have from there fished it in a lot of different directions, I guess.
And I used to think this hall was a lot longer. And I would no longer get up, and my mother and father would get settled in bed, and I would be thirsty, and I would want to drink. And my father would have to get up and go down and get it. So he got tired of that, and he bought me a little pitcher that had a glass in it. I still have it.
Was it West Virginia glass?
That I couldn't tell. It was pretty.
I'll bet it was.
I'm sorry, what was that?
There was one place on those stairs you could see in the parlor.
You watched your sister courting, didn't you?
Uh-huh.
Or your brother.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't say.
But the truth is now out. We'll put you a chair over there in the shade, and maybe we'll go around the corner. Should we go around the corner there slightly? That window would be a nice backdrop, I think.
Right. Cut in front.
That's quite all right.
Sure that that's locked.
Nice in the shade. So coming back here and seeing the house in its current condition, how does it make you feel?
Nostalgia. Takes me back. Everything, pretty much, this of course wasn't here,
This house, you mean?
that house.
I have cushions. Would you like to sit on those?
This is fine. Thank you. Why don't you sit?
That's okay, thank you.
Here's a little gift from Gilmer County to you. We
Oh,
thank you so much for
my.
all the information you've given us.
Gorgeous
Oh,
flowers.
And by the way, that vase cost me 15 cents, so please keep it.
You know, I will treasure. Aren't those beautiful?
That's butterfly weed. We have tons of that.
Oh, it's beautiful. What is it?
Butterfly weed.
Of course it is. Of course.
Butterflies love that.
Yes, I had a couple, but mine were purple and blue and white.
Well, now you're thinking of butterfly bush.
Yes.
This is butterfly weed.
It grows wild, does it?
Yes, it's a weed.
Is this what I see growing along this road?
Yes,
Really?
We're listening to the chimes in the background. Would that have been something you would have heard as a child from the church?
Yes. That was my church. But it didn't look like that.
That's from the college, the chimes you're
Chimes from the college?
But it didn't, it was just a little country.
No way, church. Boston State.
You went to Florida, I presume, by rail.
Didn't need all those.
Went on the railroad.
Actually, we did, going down, but a friend of ours drove our car down.
Oh,
And then as we came back by rail.
oh my, I bet that was an exhausting trip.
It wasn't for me, but I'm sure it was for my parents. I think it took them about 3 days.
Oh my goodness.
And they came through the Georgia red clay, and teams of horses would be waiting at the side to pull a tourist out of through the mud holes.
Oh, I know.
Did they charge for that?
Oh yes, of course. They wouldn't just spend their time sitting there waiting. Oh. No.
Do you have any hopes for this house in the future?
Oh, I think it's marvelous. I think it will. I'll just be so anxious to see it. I'll be so anxious. Because really, it was a wonderful house to grow up in.
Now, you know that your son is hoping that it will be a museum and a genealogical research site.
I know. We're so into genealogy that I'm thrilled that it's going to be.
What is your vision of what it will look like once it becomes those things?
I am the biggest side, you tell me.
I could. We've thought a lot about this house and the way to use the different rooms. Given it a lot of thought.
Well, I'll be anxious to see it.
Good.
Be anxious. You are taking the paneling off.
Yes.
I'll be anxious to see what you find under the
Yes.
paneling, because there was paper. I can't remember what the paper looked like, but
Well, if it's anything like the paper in the rag room, rag
Rag
nest.
the rag nest.
That would be wonderful.
Yes,
And there are sources for those kinds of designs
I'm
in
sure.
paper still
You-
today.
You
So it
didn't
could be
notice while
replaced.
you were in there, but there was cloth in the rag nest. The paper was cloth underneath
Oh
and
yes,
had the design on top.
yes.
I'd never seen wallpaper like that.
You had to.
No, it's gorgeous.
Yes.
So we'll be
Well,
anxious to see if we can locate some of that right here.
I think in older times the walls were rougher than they are now, and so now you can just use paper, whereas before you had to have that cloth underneath it to
Yes.
smooth it out.
I'm sure there was cloth underneath.
Under all the
wallpapers.
It acted as an insulation as well.
Yes.
It kept the cold air from coming in between the
Yes,
wall
because,
boards.
you know, when this house was built, they didn't have insulation. And
I don't know if anyone's asked you this today, but do you remember the original color of the house?
white.
White, even
It's always
back
been,
then.
always been white.
And was it wooden shingles?
Yes.
Because I have a whole
No,
list.
no, not wooden shingles,
No.
just the wooden, it looked
Like that,
looked
just like that, uh-huh. And what about the roof? Was it
slate.
slate? That's what I thought, probably.
Yes.
And were the gables cedar shakes? Or they were just like this?
They were just,
Okay.
no, there was never any cedar. It was all slate.
Now, are there missing banisters and spindles here on the front porch, or was this always open in this manner?
This was always open.
Okay.
This was always open.
But you thought that there's little decorative spindles at the top, like on the back porch?
There may have been. You know, I don't know.
We have that picture of grandmother holding Robert out here, but I don't think it goes up that high on the porch.
I don't either.
She's sitting down on the steps here, and I don't think Slim has bound to have some pictures, Mom, of the family. There's got to be some
Well,
in that house.
if she did, Ellen, I'm sure they're all gone.
Well, have you ever asked Annie that?
Annie took me up in their third floor, and I got all I could rescue.
Their third floor where? In Sutton?
Uh-huh.
You got all you could rescue.
Well, I got grandmother's picture. It was up there. Slim had it. I didn't have any. I got mother's picture. I didn't have it.
Or is there any other stuff over there? Do they have a house over there?
No.
I'm going to ask Slim and see.
You're going to step off that.
Well, I'm not going to now. You warned me, and I'm on
Well,
board.
you know, I saw your dad do that. We were in England and had gone on the Singing River, and he was standing, and it was deep and a beautiful kind of a stream going down. One minute he was there, and the next minute he wasn't. He had just stepped back.
Very scary. Gary, you don't know if there are any photographs of the house in any of the...
There's this, no old photographs that I'm aware of.
Hunter hasn't run across any that you're familiar
Not
with?
that I know of. That one is the only one that I'm aware of, and it's not an old photograph.
No, now I'll tell you what, I've got one in my office that Hunter let me borrow. I'll go get it.
Okay, we'd like to see that, Terry.
So there were flower gardens over here, Mother?
Uh-huh. This was Mother's rose garden, right here,
Oh.
right where this gravel, and this is. Wasn't a large that she had roses and had a little wire fence to keep the animals out of it, and she'd get in there and work even when she was sick.
Did she have any other kinds of flowers other than roses, or mainly she was interested in roses?
Mainly, she likes shrubs and azaleas.
And did you?
Yes, she had lilies. What are they called? I can't remember. The lilies that come out in a kind of a bulb, and you can squeeze them and they pop. I know.
I think they're just regular lilies.
They're pops.
So
Any
You squeeze
particular
the-
color?
these were white.
White lilies.
Yes. And it seems to me she had some lilies of the valley around the that was around the back.
Around the house or throughout the yard?
No, around the house.
And was there a garden out back? Vegetable garden?
No, vegetable garden was on the alley, and then on up the hill. Daddy owned I don't know, maybe a 5 acre or something, anyway, garden was up there. When I was a little girl, the old Holt House, his father's house, was down at the end of town, and he had a garden down over the riverbank, down where the river sometimes flooded into land, and I had a little garden.
Now, which house was his at the end of town?
It was his parents.
His parents? Which one? Do you remember what it looked like? A large...
It was a house, a long house.
Oh, maybe where Eleanor Horner lived. That has a long porch on the front of it.
And a long porch up over the top, yes.
That could be it. Could have been it. I was thinking of the
That was-
McQueen property at the end of town, but apparently it's just on the side of the McQueen.
She was thinking of the McQueen property.
No. It was in town. The McQueens were on down the river up on
the hill, uh-huh.
Yes, on the right.
But this is down right across from, well, maybe I don't know where it is, because maybe I'm mixing Barbara's.
It's right down at the intersection where you come in and turn left and come up Main Street.
Up East Main Street.
Up this Main Street, and it was on the opposite corner.
Okay, so where the light is, if you're coming down off the hill and you stop at the light, it's on the right-hand side, on the other side of
When
Main
you're
Street.
coming into town, yes, when you're coming in and the stoplight, it would just be right at an angle from the light. I think there's a filling station there, Alan. There used to be a log
Okay, that's
restaurant.
a log cabin restaurant and filling station.
Yes,
Okay, that's on
and that was the old Holt property.
Speaking of restaurant, what was your favorite meal when you lived here?
Oh my. My mother was a big cook. She would fry the best chicken.
Fried chicken.
Sounds like West Virginia.
I like fried chicken myself.
And she can make wonderful biscuits. And fried apples. Come home from school and smell hot biscuits and fried apples. Pretty wonderful.
I meant to ask you when we were going through the house, back in the dining room, there's some wainscoting around the walls.
Yes.
Did that used to be in the other rooms as well, or just the dining room?
What was the answer to that? I didn't hear.
adjusting the dial.
I didn't either, so.
Did you hear the question?
Oh, yes,
The wainscoting around.
the wainscoting.
Was it original?
Yes, in the dining room, but it wasn't in the rest of the house.
Is that wainscoting that's
In the
back there now
Yes,
original?
Yes.
It seems so low to me.
Well, I'm sure that's the original one because it, why do I think it is? I don't know, but I do.
Suppose, Miss Mollohan, 25 or 50 or 75 years from now, a family from, let's say, Akron, Ohio, gets in its car and they drive over to Glenville, and they see a sign somewhere that says Holt House. And they drive up and they get out and they say, look at that beautiful old house, and they tour it and they go from room to room like we've done. What would you like for them to feel and think in their mind as they go through this house as we've just done today?
Oh my, that'd take a bit of thought.
It's going to be a lot different from anything that they've ever seen. Big old house like this, a lot of rooms and high ceilings, and it's going to bring back maybe feelings of old-time elegance, maybe, and they're going to wonder about the people who lived in this house and what kind of life they had. Do you think you had an elegant life living here?
I know I had a wonderful life, and my mother was an elegant woman. She was a lady.
I certainly don't doubt that. You think you got a lot of your traits from her?
I really don't know.
Women have been the guardians and keepers of culture and civility and
Yes.
all down through the generations. It's a
Well,
terrific job.
Of course they have. And I just wonder what the race would be like if the women hadn't had some influence.
You think they'll have more or less in the future?
I think the women are doing a good job. There would be less fighting and less. And don't look at me like that.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
Yes, I feel that way. I'm in the women's corner.
Good for you.
Yes.
We're fortunate.
Yes, we are.
Good role model.
I got on the internet and looked around, and there's some interesting information about the Holt family. Not much, but a little bit. And it struck me that Holt is an English name. English. It means wooded hill.
Yes, it does.
Yes. I noticed there was 2 or 3 variations, but it's mostly just H-O-L-T.
Well, there's H-O-L-T-E in England. But that's what it's supposed to mean, is woods.
Now, how was your father related to the Holts and Weston? Was he related to...
My grandfather and their grandfather were brothers.
Oh, okay.
My grandmother and their grandmother were first cousins. So
that would have been Matt and Andy's
How does he eat?
grandfather.
yes, yes.
Do you see the newsletter from the Historical Society here in Gilmer County?
Oh, isn't
You
that
get that?
nice?
No, but you should advertise.
No, I haven't seen it.
You're on your mailing list.
Oh, absolutely. I'm wondering if maybe she is. I didn't know.
Now,
In fact,
now
the his-
that doesn't show up in the picture you have as that little piece across there. I was seeing it as something that went up like that.
Oh.
But that little piece has always been there.
Well, the difference was that it was either straight like that or somewhat curved like this. I mean, a double angle. That was the difference in the
Well,
seeing the pictures.
you have an extra one.
But also, just inside that first page there is a little story about some of your family.
Oh, is there?
Family. Yes, that's my copy. You can have that. I didn't know whether you had one of those.
No, I don't. Thank you.
Certainly. I'll make them give me another one.
Oh. That's my father, but that is not a good picture of him. He was a handsome man.
Do you have better pictures
Yes.
that you might be able to provide us?
Yeah, I do have.
Okay, we could copy those now.
Yes. He was a very handsome man.
How about some family history that we may not have there? Do you have anything maybe you could provide a copy for us?
I don't know what you have.
Well, basically what we have is right there. Okay, what's inside there. You take a look at that when you get back home.
All right.
And if you have some additional information that we might have, we'd love to have a copy of it.
Well, I'm a genealogy buff.
Great.
So I do a lot.
She says she has a better picture than the one that's used inside. Have you seen this, Alan? You
No.
probably have not.
I haven't. Oh my gosh, that's Granddad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mom, this is probably a little poignant, but you know, just for history's sake, I remember you were telling me about a number of times, but Granddad had angina,
Yes.
and he was treated at
Johns Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins
Yes.
for a number of years. How long was that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But they knew nothing about blood pressure then. And my father went to Jefferson Medical School for a year, and his father died, and he had to come home to rescue, really, his father's estate, because his half-brother was letting it go for taxes. And there was no medical school at West Virginia, so he studied law. But I've lost my train of thought.
Well, his medical condition. That's what we're talking.
He had high blood pressure. It runs in the Holt family. And of course they had no medication. And all they could do was, you know, just rest. And that was where I was telling you, the couch, when he would come home to lunch, he would lie down for half an hour, and then he would go back to the office.
And then when he passed, you were telling me that the night before he was...
Oh, you want me to tell?
Yeah, how he passed. Because
Well,
it's an interesting sitting in the dining room.
My father wasn't the type of man who would normally come down to the breakfast table and tell his dreams. But he and my brother were very, very close. My father just well, they were just very, very close. And he came down one morning to breakfast, and he said, "Mama, I had the strangest dream last night." He said Carl was in trouble, and he was on one side of a river, and Carl couldn't come to me.
So
I went to him. And the next day he was dead.
and he had an angina attack that...
Had a heart attack.
Yeah, had a... But he sat all night at the dining room table, didn't he?
He sat in this living room, and Mother set up some kind of a table, I don't know what it was. And he sat with his feet in hot water and sat at the table, and Mother had a bed moved in, and she wanted him to lie down, and he said, "No," said, if I don't get better soon, I won't. If I don't get better soon, I won't need a bed.
And you went to school that day, that morning.
Yes, I didn't want to.
I know, but you did.
Yes, I did. And they came at 10 o'clock. Been a long time ago. Been a long time ago.
And Happy lived right across the street. He and Carl were best of friends.
Yes. There used to be, this street used to be lined with trees on both sides. And when there would be some kind of a childhood disease, they would quarantine all the children. And Happy would get up in one tree, and Carl would get up in another tree, and they had tin cans with ropes, and they could talk. Long before your
Cell phone.
cell phones.
Well, they probably worked a lot better than cell phones.
Probably. I had a policeman who was a cripple, and they called him Step and a Half. And sometimes they were both in one tree, and they weren't supposed to be. And they would say, "Here comes Step and a Half, be still."
Well, all these nice people, we appreciate their coming up, and I know they all appreciate your being here. Oh, thanks for all the hard work.
Well, you know, I wasn't aware that I was going to be the object. I said to Alan, "Am I all right?" He said, "Oh, you're fine."
And indeed you were. As it turns
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mollohan.
Boy, Larry, I feel like I should lock my door.
So you get the whole house in from over here?
I'm trying. I keep going back and hoping I'm
Mary
not...
Bland will not object to her going into her yard.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was right here where the opening is.
I don't know if we've been invited to sit on the porch.
You can tell me how far I can go back.
Oh, you've got plenty of room.
All right.
12 feet, 10 feet.
Yeah, I got a good shot of it now. Oops.
Okay. So about 2 more feet. 1 more foot.
Very good.
You're about to the step now.
That's good.
You tell us when to stop, Gary. How
Well,
close?
I think just come inside the hedge probably would
Just
be the
inside
best.
the hedge. Back this way, Miss.
They all be squinting, huh? In the
That's
light.
true. That's true.
Just inside the hedge.
Well, you can.
How about in front of the tree here? And then get them in the shade so they're not squinting.
Okay. Or if you wanted to go back to the door there and have them stand here in the shade. You want to come
Here, Gary.
Picture
Come
that
on.
I take you.
Here, Gary.
Oh, that's okay. Wait a minute, John. I want to make sure I got this.
Come on. Here.
Getting away.
Here, come on now.
They need to. I can crop this and zoom in, but you may want to get just a little closer.
Okay.
Joe, now you're going to have to get over here.
Okay.
Come on.
I'm anxious to see it.
And if you think of other things, and you probably will,
Yes.
be sure and get them down to us, and we'll see that they're duly noted.
So nice to see you.
I hope you'll talk to me sometime at a later time when you can tell some of your wonderful stories and I can get it all down in print. It would be a wonderful thing to have for generations to come.
Well, and as you could tell, I love to talk.
Well, you have so much to say. It's
Very
so
interesting.
Yes.
What
It
an-
does.
That's an amazing thing.
Yes, it is.
But you know, the older I get, I notice the shorter
I
time
haven't.
seems,
I've been
50
gone.
years doesn't seem like such a
So I
long
know
My
time.
mother always said that. She said, when you get a certain age, the time will fly by. I didn't believe it.
Well, you know, you wake up one day and here you are. You don't realize that it's going like that. I didn't think I'd ever been this old. Ever.
But you told me last week we're the same age.
I'm not going to.
We're both 40. Give me a break.
39 and 40. But you know, 2000, seems so far away.
Oh, my,
Up
yeah.
next week.
To all of us.
And then here it is and gone.
Gone.
Happy to have that.
Oh, well,
Wrap
that's
it
your
up.
heart.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you for coming over. We had a great weekend.
Yes,
It was
we
really
did.
nice. Nice event.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks for today. We'll get all this written up, and this will help us greatly when we go to restore the house. You've given us a lot of very valuable information, which we need. So we appreciate that.
Well, that's the way it was always. That also colored glass. Maybe it was.
It's etched. We looked at it. It seems to match the glass in the door, which
Does
is
it?
etched. Now, one more question I have for you, not that we haven't asked enough. Were there blinds on the porch? Because I see all the windows all the way across. Did they have the blinds that could be on?
No, no,
How about awnings that came down?
no.
Canvas?
That must have